Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to explore one of the most critical topics really in industrial safety, really early fire detection being that topic. Obviously, fires can start in seconds and the impact can last for a long time, affecting operations, assets, and most importantly, lives. That's why more and more proactive detection is no longer optional, it's essential for operations. So today we'll dive into how Flir's thermal imaging technology combined with Fire Rover's innovative solutions, how we're transforming fire prevention strategies, and how working together these technologies provide real-time visibility, rapid response, and peace of mind for facilities handling high-risk materials. So by the end of this, we hope we'll have a good understanding of how early fire detection can dramatically reduce risk, improve compliance, and protect people. That's most importantly. So before we kick things off, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Alex Finkelstein. I'm the sales manager for automated and integrated systems here at Flir. And I wanted to introduce my counterpart, Ryan Fogelman. Ryan.
Hey guys, how are you? So today I'm putting I need to fix my screen. Can everybody see my screen, Alex?
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. All right. So you want me to jump in?
Just introduce yourself, yeah, if you have a minute, and then I got one more thing and we'll kick it off and get started.
No, that sounds good. So my name is Ryan Fogelman. I'm a fire protection consultant with Fire Rover. We've been working on this system since 2015. Started in scrap metal, and have really taken it from the waste and recycling industry, and brought it into a lab, got our FM approval. So I've been working closely with our clients for about 10 years, and I do work with a ton of fire protection engineers, a ton of insurance companies to help mitigate the risk and really try to understand all the different functions and benefits of the solutions like ours and the issues in the industry. So, I look forward to, I have an annual report that I put together as well as a fire safety report. So if you'd like to follow along, please feel free. There's going to be more than enough places, but I also just dropped my LinkedIn into the chat for everybody if you want a little bit more info on the background.
Awesome. So one last thing of housekeeping. So if you have any questions or comments during the webinar, please use the question pane that can be accessed on the right-hand side of your screen. You should see it on the GoToWebinar menu there. After the webinar, we're keeping some time to address questions live for you guys. If we do run time or short on any time, any questions that are not answered in the session will be answered in a follow-up email shortly after the event. Now I guess we'll get started. Ryan, I'll pass it over to you.
No, it sounds good, and I appreciate it. Let me pull up my. All right, there we go. All right, so I think, and again, I could have showed this a little bit before, but our goal is really to make sure that this is interactive if we can. So if there are questions, please feel free to ask. The idea really, I'll get into the company background, really our solutions and what we do, also our FM approval. We'll also get into how we use Flir and how it's really the engine that drives a big part of our business and has been for almost a decade. Some of the future direction, so the things that we're looking to do now that we have the FM approval, and it is for a primary system on our continuous flow, and I'll get into that in detail. And then we will leave time for question and answer. I mean, the idea is, again, if you have questions, please feel free, and I will do my best to kind of jump back and forth and make sure that we're meeting your needs, and that after lunch none of you are falling asleep. So the reality is that if you look at a fire, right, I mean, if you can catch a fire early, the earlier you catch it, the better, right? And I think there's really no argument there, right? Most fire professionals will say that a fire will increase in cost and time every 30 seconds, every minute, cost and severity with the more time that we have. So the reality too is that if you can catch a fire early enough, then you're not dealing with the effects, right? So the idea of, putting your employees at risk, putting your property, plant, and equipment at risk, using excessive water, and then, the big thing is insurance companies, right? So an insurance company, they are there to mitigate the risk of a catastrophic or major loss. They are there as a safety net. They are not there as a protection, that is a requirement, or, it becomes a little bit out of whack when you're dealing with too many fires that are inherent risk in the businesses. So really, I mean, even a few minutes can really change an incipient stage and really have it turn into a major fire event. So that's really where we step in, and that's where our solution has really, changed the way that a lot of folks will look at inherent risk of fire businesses and occupancies and how you can mitigate those risks. So really, the one thing that's really important is we do it all, right? We are one throat to choke, and you're going to hear me say this over and over again. When you think of a traditional fire protection equipment, there's a lot of different integrators, and there's a lot of different integrators on the phone. So again, there's nothing against, the sprinkler traditional way of building things, but what we've learned is that when you have one throat to choke, right? We handle all of the electronics, we handle all of the maintenance, we handle all the monitoring, we handle all of the control. We have a full heartbeat with our system. So, the reality is that we are one full integrator, and we've put the best pieces and parts together. Again, with Flir as our engine, that we've added and souped up. I like to say that, the Flir cameras are like a Mustang, and we're like the kit that's added upon it. None of these pieces were meant to be plug and play. And when we put the best pieces and parts together, and then we tie it all in under one roof, we come out with the best type of results. So, to date, Fire Rover, right? So, there's a lot of things that we do, right? We use the Flir camera to try to do earliest detection, right? So it's not just about early detection. There's early detection, and there's the earliest detection. There's looking at something at 600 degrees. There's looking at something at 220 degrees. What makes our system unique is that we're looking for different symptoms of a fire. So we pull a combination of the Flir cameras, Fike optical flame detection. We use smoke for steam analytics. We use our software and all of our masking and all the tools that we've learned over the last decade, and that we continue to work on and make better. And then the beauty is that any tie goes to our agents. We have highly trained agents that look at, verify, and will ensure that they know whether a fire is real or if it's not real. And there's a lot of false alarms. If you've ever tried to use any of these types of solutions, you get a lot of false alarms and you get alarm fatigue. And one of the things that we do that we pride ourselves on is that we look at all the needles in a haystack to find or we look at all the needles in a haystack or all of the pieces of hay in a haystack to find the needles. And really, it's shown in our dashboard. I mean, we have over 850 facilities across 3 continents. This year alone, up until through September, we've seen over 3,000 confirmed actionable fire events, and we're on pace to suppress 500 fire events on our customers' front lines. So I'll get more into that, but I mean, the reality is we've been doing this now for 10 years, and the number of fires that we're seeing out there in industrial waste recycling and other types of businesses due to hot and dry environments and all the different things that are driving, and lithium-ion batteries, which we'll get into as well. But the reality is the hazards are getting more, and the responsibility of your business to ensure that you're protecting your employees and your property, plant, and equipment is certainly getting more important versus less. We have been honored in a number of awards, and again, you can see, we were celebrating our 10-year anniversary. There's a picture of myself and Will, and we were part of the Red Hawk Fast 50, which is a Miami University employees or Miami University students and alumni. We find that truly important, right? I mean, if you meet our guys, we're very humble. We're based out of Detroit. I always call us blue collar tech. We do have a utility patent on our business or on our model. And again, we've won industrial gold, the Edison Award for Industrial Safety, which, I mean, our competition was some pretty, pretty high tech, safety equipment at the time. And again, we do have FM approved certification, which we'll get into that. We do have a UL listed a laboratory where we make all of our own fire panels. We protect 10 of the top 10 waste and recycling companies. And, when I say that protect, we're talking 20 to 150 locations per, and really, I mean, it is something that we're extremely proud of and are proud of our history. Just to get into it, like Fire Rover started in the back of a scrap metal facility by Brad Gladstone, Pete Mary, and Jeremy Dusing. And, one of the things that we started seeing a ton of these fires in scrap metal from the ASR piles. And, Brad, who has since passed away, unfortunately, but he, he was basically sitting with an owner after a major fire. And, Brad was, asking him sincerely, what can we do to stop this from happening? And, because it was a rash of, these types of fires were happening all around, like his customers specifically, but also around the country and the globe. And, one of the owners said, put the fire out next time. And Brad took that to heart. He brought Pete on, he brought Jeremy, who had been working on all of our technology. And, I know Alec has been working with, and Flir has been working with Jeremy really tightly for about 10 years. Jeremy has developed a lot of the standards for early detection. Pete is an amazing, multi, I call him a Swiss Army knife, because he just has so much, so much different types of expertise. And the teams that they have built, I mean, we're really proud of the teams that we've put together. And again, Will came on in 2020. And we've really scaled the business to a way that now, I mean, if you come in, if you ever want to see, we have demo units in Detroit, we have demo units in Lyon, France, in UK, and also in Australia. We are proud of what we built, and our guys, every day they literally go to work, whether it's on a fire panel or whether it's painting a box, and they take significant pride in how we manage the business. So again, really our goal is to manage the fire, right? It's so like our goal is not to have major or catastrophic losses for our customers. We've had 2 since we've started in 10 years. I'll show you guys our dashboard, but the reality is, that's just 2 times that our system has been overpowered when, any sort of sprinkler or traditional sprinkler system or other types of systems have all been overpowered. We overly share all of our information. If you go to YouTube, you can see most of our customers who allow us to share the our videos. The reason they do that a lot in waste and recycling is because they are being inundated by lithium-ion batteries that are being thrown on their tip floors, and they really want to be part of educating the public on ensuring that that doesn't happen. So we've been fortunate that our customers have allowed us to share these, and I can tell you, fire protection consultants, fire protection or fire engineers, and insurance companies, I mean, a lot of folks are using our information to try to take and understand really what's going on the front lines of these incidences. And fortunately, we've been and do have a ton of experience on all the different types of fires that we do see on a daily basis. So our agents are learning tactics and are understanding tactics that traditional firefighting really can't see unless you're virtual. And actually looking at thousands of these events over years and years of a period. We do try to catch the pre-incipient stage, so I will call that the fires before there's a flame. And again, we can catch those with heat abnormalities, with flashes sometimes, with smoke versus steam analytics, right? And the idea is really truly understanding our customers' situation and their, we build prescriptive solutions for them so that they understand exactly what hazards that they're dealing with and how to deal with those hazards on each specific incident. Because the reality is every single fire event is different. And every time you're going in, like what makes us unique is really the fact that we can manage those 6 minutes between when we catch a fire in a pre-incipient or incipient or smoldering or even flame and fire stages. When there's an explosion, it's usually easy. We spray, we go nuts, we get on it as fast as we can. But it's the ones where you really are, there's a lot of accelerant, there's a lot of different factors, there's things that are constantly happening, And the reality is that every one of these is different and it requires a brain. If people are going to think that AI is going to take over and manage these situations, calling the fire department and all these different pieces, well, the reality is at that point, then you wouldn't need firefighters, right? So, if we're going to get to a point where we have robots that do that, I'm sure that is decades in the future, but, it fortunately is not happening for us today. So, we really believe that we've taken the technology and the humans and really put them together to create a solution that is, far outpacing what we believe from a from a benefits perspective. So hazards protected, and this is a trick question for us because yes, we are in waste and recycling, and we were fortunate enough to prove that our system worked in an unregulated industry, and we've been fortunate enough to protect the U.S. and Canada, France, UK, Australia, and others with our solution. But the unique thing is that now that we have FM, and we started in 2018, 19 down the FM path, and we officially got our approval in March. The data sheets that we are waiting for have not been released yet from a formal perspective. So what we're learning now is all the other industries and occupancies that have had an inherent risk of fire that that we are able to now go in and protect. So if you're an insurance company, or if you're a risk or compliance, or if you're dealing as a fire engineer and you see hazards that you're not really sure if this would work or not, feel free to reach out. Our information's everywhere. You can go to firerover.com. But the reality is that we are learning the applications that we can do. It's still the same solution. It's a question of sometimes whether we get water from a self-contained unit or a primary system, whether we're an enhancement to a sprinkler system or we're a mobile suppression unit. And I'll get into those a little bit more as we go. But it really is, we are doing all these different types of solutions. Fortunately, waste and recycling has rubber and compost and wood and all these different types of things. But airplane hangars, any outdoor storage, any water tower that you have, can really be turned into a remotely monitored human response, remotely monitored human response water tower, and it's really very economical. So a lot of people talk about the costs. The costs are typically taken care of by the insurance companies, and I can tell you that the insurance companies, from a risk mitigation perspective, will typically give the premiums that people say that were expensive. So just because someone says it doesn't mean it's not something that you should reach out and find out for sure, because there is definitely there's definitely some truth, but there's also not all truths are real truths, if that makes any sense. So this is our
Ryan, I just wanted to say it from my experience, and I did want to touch on going back just a second, the demo equipment that you guys have there. I've been to the facility. It is super impressive, and it's kind of one of those things where I think everyone on the call, the seeing is believing with a lot with these solutions that you guys bring, and there's not necessarily a one size fits all for customers. You guys, I want to just harp on the point that you've developed different levels of solutions to meet different needs, and you may get into that a little bit more, but I did want to just make that a point that you guys are very consultative with customers, where tell us kind of what you're looking for, and we can help kind of almost design that solution for the customer. So just a point I wanted to put in there, and also wanted to emphasize that seeing some of this equipment in action really is impressive.
Yeah, and I think, you make a good point. I just got off a call today, where we're working with fire engineers and environmental designers who, they want to ensure that they understand, how big of a dike needs to be made for fire water using a different type of system, because, they don't have the room to put in the traditional size tanks. So again, there's just so many different things that when we sit down, we work with fire sprinkler companies when we're doing our continuous flow, and that's really, really key. We are an enhancement to a sprinkler system. We do not replace a sprinkler system. So we can be a supplemental system, or we can be an enhancement to a system. You still put in your same 90% of your infrastructure, just instead of running a 1.5-inch line with traditional sprinkler heads, you run your a 3-inch and 2.5 to us. We take that, we, and we do with nozzles and cameras, and it's really pretty efficient. And it's better for a lot of different reasons as we can walk through. But you can also have your backup, traditional heads if that's something that, excuse me, if that's something that you need. So this is like why Fire Rover, right? Like why do you believe anything that we're saying? And it's really, this is our 3.5-year dashboard. And again, you can see, I mean, there's a different amount of customers at all times, and that's constantly moving. We've lost 2 customers in 10 years. They both went bankrupt. So I mean, usually our customers, they integrate with us, and as Alex said, they work with us, and they might use us for one thing, and they think, oh, Fire Rover's a massed unit, it's only for my outdoor scrap yards, and then all of a sudden, they start looking at their presses, and they start looking at some of the hazards that they've never been able to do, and they're like, whoa, wait, maybe we could use the Fire Rover solution for that. So we spend a ton of time really working with our clients and working with fire engineers and insurance companies to ensure that that we're able to custom build a prescriptive solution, and again, doing it within the rules of each jurisdiction, which means working with the fire sprinkler contractors and making sure that we meet and exceed all of those regulations and jurisdictions. So as you can see this year, I mean, over 3,000 fire events we have confirmed and seen. We pressurize our system about 30% of the time. We only spray about 12 to 13% of the time. But when I say only, we've literally put 383 fires out on our customers' front lines. And again, that we could have shot for as little as 10 seconds. We can shoot for, as long as, I'll show you some videos, but I mean, traditionally, we're shooting for less than you would see a traditional system, and we use about 500 gallons of water and potentially a combination of environmentally friendly wetting agent. We are agnostic on, so we use what our customers or our customers' fire experts will tell us to use. But as you can see too, we called the fire brigade about 300 or fire department 376 times or 374 times. So, it's not a one-to-one. So I should be very clear. We do have like thermal only solutions. We have, a ton of different rules and regulations and protocols that we set up with our customers on when we will call the fire department, when we call the fire brigade, when we call their, so really it's we learn our customer sites so well that they know what they're looking for. And again, you have a forklift driving by with a regen going off, and we look at it, we say, hey, that's not a confirmed fire. We look at that is, hey, that's clear, no problem. We move to the next one and we keep going. But I mean, a lot of times we might see something that's a small pile, and it gets taken care of by a fire extinguisher, or a piece of equipment picks it up and brings it outside or puts it out. So we really are a living, breathing piece of that, and it's really pretty it's definitely science, not an art, even though it might look that way. And again, we've had 2 major losses in 10 years. One time it was a large manufacturer of metals, and they basically, there would have been no system in the world that would have protected the facility based on the situation. And the other was a tip floor where we had 55-gallon drums of hand sanitizer dumped on to the floor, so it was a vapor fire. So again, that's only 2 times. And I mean, if you look at it compared to traditional sprinklers, I mean, it is night and day, reliability perspective, especially in these types of occupancies that we're dealing with that are high vibration, high dust, critical assets for our customers. So let's get into FM approval. Alex, I don't know if you have specific questions around this, but I can give a little bit of an overview. The reality is that, typically if you're going to get an FM approval for a piece of a fire protection, right, or something, you say, hey, for example, I'm going to go to FM and I'm going to, I want to get my new fire door that we've created. I want to get this FM approved. So what do? You bring it there, you follow their FM approval for fire doors, you do the testing, you do everything that you need to do, you dot your I's, you cross your T's, and within a year you typically have that approval, or you have to do things to change your product to get the approval. So with us, it was really different. I mean, FM is water, 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 and I'm sure I know there's a number of FM insurers on the call, FM insurance employees, and the reality is for us, I mean, we came to the table and they didn't know what to do with us, right? I mean, and so it took us about 7 years to get through all of the, hey, we're going to do this. This is how we're going to do this, and, even FM, if you go to their website, I mean, they basically have said that they've never tested or never had a product that they have approved that has been tested to more than 3 different standards, which, we really take that as such a an honor, right? And I mean that, if you ever come to our building and you meet our guys, and I mean, our team really worked very hard and diligently, to ensure that we met and exceeded all of their standards that they put in front of us and that we agreed, to go after. And again, it took 7 years, right? So like, did it take, from initial introduction to, Charlie, to all the way to, last March, and we're still going down the path of approving all the rest of our solutions, which we'll show you, and we still believe this at the beginning, but, the reality is that we've tested to 6 different standards, and, you can get into all those, you can get into kind of those details, probably not enough time on a call like this, but, the reality is, we are more than happy to, to have you for a tour or on a call and really get into what these mean, and how they work. But, to make it really, really simple, right? Like, our entire solution is that one throat to choke. It's one circle of, like the full maintenance, the full monitoring, the bumper to bumper warranty. We make our own fire panels, we assemble our own equipment, we make our own boxes, and really, I mean, it's all the control center and, all the different pieces that go together that they have approved. So, it's unique to FM, that they've done this, and, we do take it as an honor to be the first, and, to be the ones who, who definitely, hopefully, broke the box a little bit, and for innovation and for good, in these types of industries.
Yeah, one thing, Ryan, on there is, I know you as well as I, and I'm sure several others on this call, we hear FM approval, we're in it, we're talking it a lot. I did want to just kind of, just for like a broad understanding for some other people on this call, like, what is FM approval? How is that important? Like, if I was someone to be like, this system's FM approved, what does that mean for me? Obviously, I know the standards and things,
Yeah.
but if you could just kind of touch on that, just for people that are not necessarily, around it as often.
No, absolutely, and I think it makes sense, right? I mean, FM is really, I mean, they're one of the largest insurers of industrial hazards in the world, right? Industrial occupancies in the world, and, really what FM does is, it's the warranty on the side of a box. If you've ever seen Tommy Boy, right? I mean, they're going in and making sure that we have the redundancy and the processes and the people and all the technology in place to ensure that, our system is not something that was just thrown together. So if you think of most certifications, right, the CE certifications, the UL certifications, a lot of them are on consumer products, and the idea is that, when you get something that has, some sort of a certification, that, it's not going to have counterfeit parts, right? That's kind of the easiest thing. And then it's okay. Now on top of that, we're going to make sure that if you lose communication or you lose, power from one, you have redundant power. And sometimes you have to have triple redundant. And there's all these different rules that they've created for all those different pieces. And, as we go through, and, it really is, they want you to test for every single piece and make sure that everything is tied in, and, you crossed your T's, you dotted your I's, you've tied your bows, and, that you're really basically going out there and saying, my solution has been beat up, it's been kicked, it's been, because again, we're in dusty environments, by high vibration environments, really high hazard environments. And, FM is really the seal on the side of the box that says, we trust these guys, we trust the way they operate, we trust the way they do business. And, the guy at our company who really pushed it was a guy named Michael Bodner. And, he made sure, like, his teams, we had to put manuals together that, you have to make sure your documentation is in line. So, I would say, it's almost like Six Sigma on steroids, and that's really a, kind of an easy piece. But, the reality is that a lot of insurers will trust that FM and what they have approved, will allow them the credibility to say, hey, we understand that, Fire Rover says it works, right? We understand that they're giving us all this data. Now, do we trust them? And that's really what FM says is, hey, you should trust them, and here's why, and here's the individual, here's the individual slices that they put together, and here's the solution that we're gonna that we would agree to. So I think that in itself is probably a decent example. I mean, Alex, is there anything you want to add to that, or?
No, I think it's spot on. I think that FM approval is something that, especially, I mean, really for most industries, but there's definitely specifics where that stamp of approval really carries a weight. So yeah, kudos to you and the team over there. I know that's a big accomplishment and something you guys have been working on for quite some time. Do you feel like that FM approval has been able to, like, our insurance companies more, like, does that help influence some of the considerations with some of these companies? Because I know with a lot of industries, they're kind of pushed by insurance to find these solutions. Do you feel like that FM approval kind of helps in that, or kind of what are your thoughts there?
No, and I think, it's a great question. I think the answer is yes, absolutely. I think, there's really only three reasons why you put a fire protection system in, right? Because really it's an investment in safety. And, the reality is you're either doing it to protect yourself and your own investment, you're doing it because an insurance company is really pushing you to do it and they're protecting their investment, or a jurisdictional, requirement is requiring you to do it. And I think, it's like one of those things that, we, based on our reputation, we were already getting savings and bringing, one of the things in waste and recycling, all insurers were leaving, right? Because in 2018, there was a ton of claims, and batteries are still causing about $1.2 billion in damage. And again, none of those systems are really, that's not areas that we protect. So, we're seeing things like the vape effect and other things that you can see in my annual report if you're interested in reading about it. But the reality is that insurers had been coming back to the industry. So, and they have been giving, prescriptive discounts to a lot of our clients. Now, again, you have to ask for it. You have to fight for it. It's prescriptive, right? This isn't like, hey, I'm putting a Fire Rover system in. What's my discount? Oh, that will be $19.99, right? This is, let's look at your history. Let's look at your driving record. How many fires have you had? How are you as an operator? Are you a good operator? Are you a bad operator? In their eyes, of course, right? And again, so, and then what investments are you making, including Fire Rover and other things, right? Are you investing in your other safety? Or are you just expecting Fire Rover to be your 4 layers of protection and then you're stopping? So, they're going to look at all aspects of, basically your background. But, the reality is that, yes, like we are seeing, there are industries who would never have even taken a meeting with us until we had that FM approval, because it is a requirement from an industrial occupancy that they're in. So, we are in chemical plants. If we wanted to be in as a primary solution in chemical plants, we need to have an FM certification. And, there's a ton of those. As a supplemental, it's different, but to be a primary, or even to have a sniff of a primary, you need to have that FM approval.
Yeah, understood.
So,
thanks for that.
Because I have a ton of videos, and that's usually the most fun that people like to walk in. But just to kind of jump through, we were in the NFPA handbook. We have been written into some codes. And so basically, if you're a fire engineer and you're looking to understand what Fire Rover is from a technical perspective, it is a patented prepackaged system of listed components capable. And again, I'm not going to read through this entire thing. It's been up for a little bit. But the reality is that there is a level of there's a level of formality that has been built around our system. And as we've had fire engineers who are sitting for NFPA panels and talking, and I'm on NFPA 18A special committee for 18A, right, for the encapsulator agents. I'm on the hazard material committee. So and there are others of us at Fire Rover who are really part of these. I had said Jeremy before. He's really setting the standard on some of these new innovative products and and value plays in specific occupancies. So if you do have questions, please reach out. If you're on one of these committees and you're interested in understanding how we can help, like Fire Rover, and like how we protect hangars. And again, I say that because I do believe that we're the solution for hangars. Take away the 30,000 gallon deluge system and get a solution like ours that can fog spray straight stream, that really protects from a damage perspective and protects people. If you're on any of those committees, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to talk through it. So really, this kind of ends it, right? Like, which is, why do you want, or why do you believe in Fire Rover? Like, we have never had a false activation. Not one time have we accidentally sprayed, right? Not one time, right? Because it doesn't work in our system. So we literally don't hit firefighters or employees. I'm not saying we've never hit them, but like usually it's because they walk into our stream, they're in a place that they shouldn't be. We have audible alarms, we have visual alarms, we have emergency buttons, we have emergency buttons in the loaders, in their emergency buttons in the cabs of the loaders. But like, the reality is that like, even if you get hit by it, I mean, it's like getting punched, and if you're wearing your proper safety gear, you should be okay, or you are okay. We've never had anyone hurt by it. But the reality is, I mean, it's on a hand, like on my hand, it's less than 5 times we've ever had water hit, and most of the time that was due to somebody walking into it. We provide appropriate responses to specific hazards. We're ideally suited for large spaces, so industrial, indoors, high ceilings, that type of thing, and then also outdoor applications. We keep the fire professionals safe, and I'm going to show you videos of exactly how we work with fire professionals. And really, this big thing is we always miss this. And it was funny because I was on that call a couple hours ago where we were talking to the environmental compliance guys. And really, we use less water. We use 500 gallons or less per incident. And again, even in our big incidences, we are using so much less fire water, or we are creating so much less fire water than you would ever see. FM did a research report on smart monitors, and they used 92% less water. I believe FM is redoing this in Q4, redoing this study with our solution, which it's one of those things where we believe you're going to have the exact same results, but just we'll be able to say that it was Fire Rover. And then again, we're fluorine free. Like, we don't use PFAS, we don't use anything that is going to be bad for the environment. You as a customer will decide, do I want to use just water? Do I want to use fluorine-free foams? Do I want to use wetting agents? Do I want to use gels? And again, there's a lot of guys out there who claim that their products work amazing. And I can tell you that we're basically going to tell them to stand for themselves and to prove to you or your fire professionals that it works. This is
real quick, Ryan, before because I definitely want to get to the videos. I think the videos of what you guys do and telling that story is important. I just wanted to remind everybody on the call, if you do have questions, we've had some come through. If you have any questions, feel free to submit those in. We're going to take a few minutes at the end to go through some of those questions. And if we don't get to them all, we'll reply to you. But just wanted to make a note there real quick. And back to you, Ryan.
No, that's good. I appreciate it. This is Sean Mendel. I don't know. Can you hear video?
We have not had a significant loss at a location with the Fire Rover system. I'm Sean, Vice President of Safety and Risk Management with Waste Connections. Huge advocate of Fire Rover. The insurance market for anyone in the industry is getting tougher and tougher. And the fact of the matter is, they want to see what we're doing to mitigate the risk of property losses from fires. From the cost of insurance, there is a significant savings where we have the tools like Fire Rover deployed to mitigate the risk. Again.
So, again, I show that because, there's how do I say this? There's a lot of folks who come out there, and when you're successful, they try to, break up your solution, right? And there's early detection. Early detection is not what we do, right? And again, a lot of people say we're expensive. A lot of people say there's no insurance savings. There's, all these things. So, I mean, Sean Mendel's, they're a 10 billion plus company. I mean, he was willing to get on camera. Most of our customers are willing to get on camera. If anyone wants to talk to any of our customers, we're more than happy to give references. But I mean, the reality is that, I just want to make sure when we're on this call, I mean, people do understand that, this isn't just us saying, yeah, you get discounts, right? I mean, this is, again, you got to sit down and you got to prove to them, and we are more than happy to help do our part to ensure that, most insurance companies will understand, and we speak their language. We understand how actuarials do their analysis and what they're doing. So, we can definitely arm you with, with the tools and the data to, make that case. So basically, this is where we get into solutions. And again, this is like kind of the fun part. So if you do have questions, I mean, I know we have 20 minutes left, but I can start to go through these relatively quickly once we get through the high level. But really, it's this early flame detection, it's early thermal detection, it's early smoke. I've already kind of talked through this, but we use our continuous flow system when we have water, but we need you guys to supply it through a fire protection company or a sprinkler company. We have our mobile suppression unit, which we just did some heavy industrial testing, which I'll show that video, for one of our customers. But it really does temporary fire protection, small pile protection, and then we replace Firewatch. And then our self-contained unit, which is a supplemental system, we provide everything from the box up into the into the protection. And then we have our on-watch unit. This is for thermal only protection of landfill facings, construction and demolition sites, and all those different types of pieces. So really, most important, right? Like, again, we start off with the self-contained system. This is where people say we replace sprinkler systems. And again, that's incorrect, right? We do not replace a sprinkler system. We are an enhancement to a sprinkler system with our primary, we're our primary system that's FM approved. But this unit right here, which we are going down the FM approval, the only difference between this, only significant difference between this and our continuous flow is really that it's self-contained. You drop this in, it doesn't need water, it needs light electricity, so 120 volt, it's basically heated, it's cooled, it's a dry system, it's got a 1,000-gallon tank, and it's nitrogen powered, and we run everything from this system. So you'll see here, the unit sits on a concrete pad. We custom pipe everything up the walls, we put it in conduit, and again, we guarantee that this is all going to work and be good for as long as our contract is in place. Again, we see an abnormality, we look at, we verify, and one of our agents will spray it. And you'll see, we do everything we can to ensure that it is as close to as possible, or as close to the nozzle as possible, so we get the farthest stream. This is a very controlled solution that we have for our clients. Again, when we talk about the prescriptive versus the prescriptive versus a unit, this is the supplemental system, high hazard. We can put up to 3 nozzles, and you can see up in the corner 3 nozzles and 6 detection zones. We have our fire panels inside. We have a 1,000-gallon tank, a 250-gallon pressurization tank, and we have battery backup, and we always run these on a hardline or heavy internet and backup 4G. This is our continuous flow solution, which this is the powerhouse of what we do from a primary protection perspective. And again, this is the system that has been and was the first of FM approval. It comes with all the water that you need in theory, right? And we manufacture this, and we create these custom to ensure that these are made for your system. Again, we use municipal water, we use your water, we can do these indoors. And I think the biggest thing that I love to see is our standpipe system, which is 30 to 40 feet outdoors, dry system. We replace all water towers, and honestly, we should replace all water tower. There is no reason that there's a man or firefighter standing on the top of a water tower pushing these out when we can see through smoke, we can see through darkness. We fight a fire better than a fire department, and not out of disrespect, out of full respect, which is how we do that. And I'll explain that. You can see, I mean, we can handle high hazards. This is a paper facility, but I mean, we do a ton of these outdoor storage. We fight the fires better than the firefighters, and they're happy about it. So here's an example of a continuous flow fire. This was one of the big ones, right? This is one of the ones where there's an accelerant. We don't know what caused it. Again, we can see through smoke, and we can see through darkness, and we can also spray towards the fire. And I want to be very clear, it's not about hitting the fire. It's about hitting the fire, not hitting people, working with your fire department, ensuring that everybody's safe and on site, making sure that we're hitting the collateral and protecting the collateral assets. So like as I'm going through all these things, if I have two different, monitors and nozzles that are working, I have two different sets of people that are working those from different angles, because honestly, they're two separate fires, right? They're looking at for complete different angles, and they have two different ways to fight these fires. So this is what makes Fire Rover unique, right? This is what makes us different. The FLIR camera is the best in the world. It allows us to do early detection better than anyone else in the world, right? But the reality is that what we do is guaranteeing that the system's going to work, it's maintained, it's monitored, it's warranted 24/7. And then when we get the firefighters, we're talking to them, they come next to us and they literally just copycat, right? So they don't even know where they're spraying towards, and they'll admit it. They have ticks, handhelds, but really what they're doing is, they're spraying towards where we're spraying to ensure that, we can get a little more power and a little more water on it where it helps. But, a situation like this that was guaranteed a major loss is a safe building, where in the old days, the fire department would have gotten there and let it, they would have let it burn, because again, we're doing initial extinguishment, containment, and final extinguishment along with the fire department. So this is another one. Here's an example. I mean, these are the types of fires. Your employees should never be fighting a lithium-ion battery fire. They're dangerous. So, I give the example, right? I mean, these batteries, and again, I'm not just talking about batteries, I'm talking about chemicals, I'm talking about all these different types of things. They explode, they provide shrapnel, they do all these different things that put your guys at risk. So, here's an example of how we work with our clients. We're actually moving you'll see we're engaged, we're watching, we're waiting for them to finish. Again, this has been sped up, and then we're going to start spraying. Well, there's an issue here. We know there's an issue. We're talking to our client on the phone. We're saying, guys, there must be an obstruction. We're not able to hit this. Hold on. We're going to pull back. They're going to come in and take a look at it. Again, we don't teach or tell our employee or our clients how to fight fires, right? I mean, that's really their responsibility, but we're just making sure that we're doing the best we can. We're on the phone with them. They say, keep spraying. And again, we're going to have this out, and it's less than 1,000 gallons of water and an environmentally friendly wetting agent that, I mean, the cleanup is minuscule compared to traditional types of systems. And by the way, the equipment can be rebuilt because it hasn't been completely deluged in water, and it's not going to get the corrosive aspects that we see. So this is, and again, I love this stuff. I could go all day, but here's another example. And again, a lot of our stuff is waste and recycling, because I mean, they're the ones who are allowing us to share. This was a loader that drove over a battery pack. You had 5 different fires start. So again, your employees shouldn't be in the building. They should evacuate. We spray 1, 2, 3, 4, go over left. Here's the 4th and the 5th. We put out all the fires. The fire department shows up. They have a safe location to show up to. They come inside. And by the way, we have built-in fire watch. So really all you have to do is, add water to the stream.
Well, I think this is what tells the story, right? So, when we're talking, these thermal cameras can detect hot spots, and they can. Well, what else do you want to do? I think that's where you guys have really pieced the puzzle together for many customers is, I have a thermal camera. If I can find these hot spots, but what else do I want to do? And I think that's a key question for a lot of people. So you definitely connect the dots with this solution for sure. And I think a lot of people are appreciative to see these types of videos, because they can, picture this happening at their facility, and how was the response? What happened? I think a picture and a video tell 1,000 words. So I think it's to talk through.
No, and I agree. I mean, and that's where, I mean, right here, I mean, you're dealing with literally, like, this is one of our battery recyclers, right? I mean, if we don't stop this from cooling and again, when the fire department comes, they're not supposed to come into these buildings unless they have confirmed, they have a confirmation from the inside eyes that everything is allowing them to come in. And by the way, I wouldn't allow them to come in if I hadn't been spraying this for 12 minutes, right? And which we already had been. So, and it is about the collateral assets. It's not about what you hit. It's about what you don't hit. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but here, let's, I got a couple like this one right here. You know, we do a ton of like metering drums, and when we see the metering drums, you know, a lot of times we're on equipment and we have e-stops. But you know, the reason I show this one is actually really important, right? Because you're talking about an automated system potentially, and you know, people are going out saying that these things are the answer. We have a camera. This shuts down the conveyor system when we see a fire. What you're not seeing here is two guys are in a front loader bucket being lifted up with handheld fire extinguishers spraying out this fire. So I'll show you. I can't show you the people, but I can show you guys like what they're doing. And you can see they're really, these are two handheld, you know, and you know, a lot of these drums are 14, or a lot of these in-feed conveyors, they're about 14 feet high. So, you know, you really, it's hard time to lift them. And, you know, again, they probably shouldn't have been in this loader. They weren't harnessed in. But like, if you see it from our aspect, you know, right here, so the guys are actually in that bucket. We're waiting until they're gone. If this thing was full and these guys are over here and you see, oh, I see heat, I'm going to spray it. Well, you go do that, you just knocked one of the guys off, potentially injuring and potentially killing him, right? So like, it really is, this is night and day, right? I mean, we work with our clients to ensure that they don't have the issues. And honestly, there's a lot of times when, you know, we have to wait to go fight a fire. And so we're coming back now. We'll have this fire out really in seconds. I mean, it didn't take us that long. And had we been able to do it earlier, you know, a lot of our customers, they really have to learn that, you know, it's us protecting them, right? And, you know, as much as us responding as fast as possible. This is a scrap metal facility. And a lot of these facilities, we have a couple of the big, you know, the big towers, but we're also layers of protection. So we're going to say, okay, the goal is not to have a black cloud above your facility. If it's bad for the environment, it's bad for, you know, publicity. So, you know, again, we see it, we spray it. We've called our guys to come out, right? So literally, this is the customer. They have a 3,000 gallon water tank to help us. You know, it's all hands on deck. Now, again, if it's 2 in the morning and the same thing happens, we're spraying until the fire department gets there. So, you know, fortunately and unfortunately, you won't have this. So like, you know, every single time we fight a fire, the pile's a different size, the equipment's doing different things, the time of day is different. I mean, you see this, I mean, you know, so again, it really is one of those things when you're digging these out, you want to make sure you have us there, you know, and by the way, we also caught it early. So, you know, this is another example, right? That's actually steam, or is it smoke, or is it steam, right? Nobody knows, right? But we do. So we know exactly what we're looking at, what we're hitting, you know, like dusty environments, you know, these are challenging scenarios when you're trying to figure out how to say, oh, hey, I'm just going to automate this, right? Because, you know, this is why FM is requiring us to have human beings and control of everything that we see. And this is why we have the approval, and this is what we've proven that we can do, you know, in a lot of different types of markets and scenarios. Here's another example of kind of the uncontrol, because, and again, this is proper handoff to a fire department. A couple things happen in here, which I think are kind of fun. You know, and again, Alex, I don't see any questions, so I'm just going to keep going unless you guys pop one in. Have you asked?
No, you're good. I have one here, well, a couple here that I'll share in a second. But I think I think while these videos are playing, one of the ones that came in was this was based around a parking structure. So some questions there. Can you comment on Jacksonville Airport parking structure fire, and how do you deal with EV fires in parking structures? Have you come across those? We can talk about EV as well. I think that's a good little topic to touch on, but have you dealt with parking structure fires ever?
Yeah, and I can get into that. Let me just show one thing. Do you see how this guy runs in? It's called the hero. This guy goes in and like he can't even see. He's not even touching the actual flame, right? So again, he's putting himself at risk. He's running in, he's breathing those fumes, and he's not even touching the flames. So again, this is one of those that we're going to see. We're going to go through. We're going to keep spraying. The traditional sprinkler head never goes off. And we start right around here. And again, these are double time, but right around here, the fire department comes and they finish it and we hand it off to them and they finish off the fire. These guys were back to work 3 hours later. To answer your parking structure, I mean, you know, those are difficult. What we've designed is a couple that we have concepts of where, you know, you're going to have your EV on the roofs. And then you could have, the like our water towers coming out of the corners where you could spray those. Again, I think the big issue that we're dealing with EV fires, and this is like anything else. We do fleet protection, so we can tell if there's a heat abnormality, so you can at least stop and move one of the trucks, right? Versus, or you can move one of the buses, or you can move one of the cars, right? To try to get them out of the way to stop any sort of, you're better off. One EV fire is bad, but when you have, 15 EV fires in a row or 15 car fires in a row, that's really when you get like these catastrophic losses on it. And then when you're using a ton of water. So, this is a burgeoning industry. People are trying to figure out the solution. We don't have it yet. It is something that we are working on, looking at though with a number of cities and municipalities. And you'll be the first to know, because we'll try to share. But if you have a specific or occupancy that you're looking towards, feel free to reach out and send me an email, and I'll connect you with the right people.
Yep. Another one I had was, are there any kind of upcoming new developments from Fire Rover that you guys are kind of working on that you'd like to share with the people on this call today?
I would. So I know I have 5 minutes. So, and again, we can stay on longer if anyone else would want to. We do give a report that, we are handing out. So we're working with our clients. We do early detection. So the early detection, again, I'm not saying it's bad. It makes sense in so many different ways. And our early detection is our same system, just without water. This is our on-watch system. This unit is used on landfills, on construction demolition sites, and we do full maintenance, monitoring, and warranty on it. Now, this is our mobile suppression unit. So if you've seen anything, this is one that I would definitely be on board with. But I will show you, this was the mobile unit that we built for Firewatch, and also for, it's made for hot work specifically, so cutting, grinding, and torching. And then it's also made for, for early fire detection when your systems are down. So, if you're ever looking for temporary, this unit's only 65 grand. And it's about $1,000 a month for the full maintenance, monitoring, and warranty. And you can see we were down in industrial. This was a great day with one of our biggest customers. They're a paper customer that has a ton of different mills, and they're looking to deploy these out to all of their assets. But these units can connect to water. They also could connect to our CAF systems. So you can have it as a full unit, or a unit that's kind of portable. They move around on Cushmans. So we really believe that this is the first of that Fire Rover evolution of, as we continue to evolve and grow our business. I mean, we're adding, just like anything else, like, you can control our system if you want to, right? We don't want our customers to, because we believe that we do it better, but there is a break glass that they can take and and control it. So there's nothing we won't do for our customers. I mean, there's very little that we won't do for our customers, but we just really, as long as we talk through the pros and the cons, that's really the most important. What do you think of this, Alex? It's pretty cool, huh?
That system is awesome. I think it's super useful. I think the mobility of it's really great. So kudos to all you guys. I've been a fan of that one, all of them, but especially that system. I think there's a ton of applications for it. So
yeah, this is loss of communication. So when we were testing a bunch of different levels, just to get into some specifics, because it's really kind of fun. We're doing smoldering as well, but like keeping in mind that our agents don't just point and shoot, right? I mean, there are times when there's a small fire that we, it's wood chips, or it's sawdust that we have to feather it. We have to shoot, overspray it, and bring it back. Like, there's so many different techniques that go with this. And any firefighter who understands, who really understands how to fight a fire gets this. But, it is not just point and shoot, right? I mean, if it was that simple, then, you wouldn't need firefighters, and, you wouldn't need fixed systems. So, it is one of those things that human touch and that human thinking and that human thought is really what drives, the best results. Especially when when you have an insurance company spending a ton of money, protecting you.
Yep, spot on. Well, I appreciate it. I think it's been super informative for the audience today. I didn't know if there was anything else, Ryan. I know the main thing I wanted to leave is just thank you for everyone attending the webinar today. It'll be recorded as well, so you can share, rewatch. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. You'll have all of our information, but most importantly, I know make sure to subscribe to this information. Ryan can talk more about it, but join that fire safety report. You can gain a lot of information from that, all the latest information on what's going on. And Ryan, I'll kind of leave it to you to touch on that.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate it. I mean, I have 12,000 followers. I mean, I think, or subscribers to the fire safety report. So, you know, it's one of those, I do my annual report. So we're working on the 9th annual report for waste and recycling facility fires in the US and Canada. But really the exciting part, and, you know, and I appreciate this. I mean, like I said, like the FLIR camera is our engine, right? I mean, we are so committed and we are so tied at the hip with you guys. And again, you know, I don't say that about all of our pieces and parts, but we do try to use the best of the best. And, you know, I mean, you know, we have been, you know, working with you guys for so long, and like that piece of the business in my mind needs to run without a hiccup, because, you know, the reality is, as you guys get better, as we get better, that piece gets better, which only makes our solution and our team and our solution that is the overall like full one throat to choke integrated system. You know, and now that we have that FM approval, you know, I'm really excited to see where we can take this from other occupancies. So, you know, if I haven't said one thing, if there's any occupancies you guys think make sense, you know, we now have the capabilities and the, you know, we now have the firepower, you know, to really help you guys solve crazy problems, right? Because again, EV, I mean, parking structures, that's one example, right? There's so many examples of, you know, just those unique hazards that are happening out there. And, you know, listen, nobody wants these to happen. We want to protect our, you know, we protect over $50 billion worth of property, plant, and equipment, but most importantly, we protect people and we protect firefighters and we protect our frontline operators, which is really, you know, the goal of everything that all of us, or at least that's, you know, that's what us, and, you know, I call it blue collar tech, but if you ever come see us and meet us, you know, you'll understand our guys really put their money where their mouth is.
Awesome. I think we had one more slip at the end. We'll follow up with that question. But other than that, thank you everyone for attending, and hope you have a great rest of the day. Okay. Thanks, Ryan, for hopping on.
Oh, thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate it. Thank you guys and everything you do.
Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.